With the PlayStation 5 already halfway past its current cycle, it's been a roller coaster ride for the PlayStation diehards, from the loss of consoles melting, Pulse Elite headsets not working, to the highs of accessory and console releases, not to mention the exclusive titles and the updates that have garnered both negative and positive reactions. After using the PS5 for a little over 3 years, I've experienced the best and worst of this platform. So in this video, we take a deep dive into the world of the PS5 3+ years after launch to make you aware of things you've never known about the PS5, what the future holds, plus so much more. Buckle up and let's go for the ride. Starting off with what you guys would want to hear first, the updates. After being in beta for a while, the PS5 update 9.0 was finally released to the public, and while for the average consumer you might not realize what has changed, for the hardcore gamers, these changes make a big difference. Starting with the controller speakers can now produce higher volume sound, which allows you to hear in-game sounds like footsteps and voice chat when playing online with mates. Speaking of which, this update left some netizens wondering how Sony managed to pull it off, and from my understanding, with AI being the buzzword across the tech space since late 2022 when ChatGPT got us on a chokehold, it definitely had to make its way to the gaming space, and after doing my digging, Sony confirms it's through a machine learning model that can detect and suppress background noises from button presses and game audio, resulting in a better voice chatting experience. For context, here's what it sounds. So I've got the washing machine running in the background. I don't know if you guys can pick that up. Let me know if you hear it in the audio recording from the PS5 DualSense Edge controller. So this is me navigating through the menu of NBA 2K24, and the washing machine is still running in the background, the fridge as well, and it's also started raining. Let me know if you pick that up. Talking of better experiences, screen sharing got exactly that. When sharing a screen, viewers that watch in full screen mode can now use a cursor and place emoji reactions on the screen to interact with the host's gameplay. Something to note though, the feature is turned on by default but can be turned off by the host in the share screen settings. Another update worth talking about is the ability to adjust the brightness of the power indicator, which doesn't sound like a significant update, but from this Reddit thread, it's safe to say it comes in clutch for some users. To adjust the brightness of the power indicator, go to System, scroll to Beep and Light, then under Power Indicator, click on Brightness and pick the setting of your choice. Here's how the different brightness settings on the power indicator look. While on the power indicator train, although not significant, we might as well talk about the update on the shutdown animation. If you'd ask me, this update most likely went unnoticed by most people, and just like the brightness indicator update, it doesn't hold much significance since it's more of an aesthetic thing. To wind down the update train, some of the other notable updates we've had so far include 1440p support, increased storage, Dolby Atmos support, and being able to mute the startup sound, which despite being very simple, comes in clutch, especially if you don't want to annoy others in your household. As for storage, at launch, PlayStation initially locked the expansion bay and all you were left with were the 825 gigs, of which only 667 gigs were usable. Since then, PlayStation opened it up, and more on that when we get to storage. Having talked about the system updates and how they've made the PS5 user experience better, we might as well talk about things that make the experience not so pleasant, and that brings us to the issues. Starting with the liquid metal problem, a few months after release, a few people complained about their consoles melting, and a myriad of reasons were thrown into the fray. Being a techie, as always, the Reddit rabbit hole is a good place to start, and a few scrolls into my quest for answers, I picked up a myriad of reasons that can cause this. Starting with placing your console vertically, loading up your I/O ports, design flaws, GPU-intensive games like Final Fantasy 16 and Diablo 4, accumulation of dust inside the console, just to name but a few. With this in mind, I knew the answers would also be in the same threads, and upon digging through them, some of the solutions that were laid out included placing your console horizontally, reducing the number of accessories plugged into your console, dusting your console, and setting your console to performance mode. Now, from a personal standpoint, I haven't had any issue placing my console vertically, but the horizontal placement appears to have worked for some people. As for loading up the I/O, in my reckoning, this goes hand in hand with GPU-intensive games and accumulation of dust inside the console, more so on the power supply vent. To break down how this trio goes hand in hand, when your pods are loaded to the brim, they obviously need to draw more power to support the accessories plugged in, and the same power is also required when running GPU intensive games. So when the accessories and GPU intensive games are both fighting for power, then you throw in a power supply vent that is covered in dust to the mix. Overheating is bound to happen, and in some instances your console even shuts down. To put that into context, if you Google Spider-Man 2 shuts down PS5, you'd be surprised how many people had this issue. In saying that, majority of the issues have now been solved, but just like in any environment, there will always be those outliers, and the solutions I outlined can help solve the problem whenever it occurs. Moving along, having just talked about the issues, performance would be the perfect segue to that, given that the issues affect the overall performance of your console, most notably the liquid metal issue because of overheating. All things constant, in my opinion, the PS5 is one of the best consoles alongside its counterpart, the Xbox Series X. When it comes to what you get performance-wise, you'll be able to get variable refresh rate, otherwise known as VRR, which was introduced by an update not too long ago, HDR, 4K at 120Hz, but that's dependent on whether your TV has HDMI 2.1, otherwise you'll be getting the standard 60Hz. Other than that, the ability to mute the boot up sound and adjust the brightness of the power indicator have also been a good addition, even though they don't directly impact the performance. Moving along, with performance and the notable issues out of the way, the next obvious thing would have to be the gaming experience and games. When it comes to the gaming experience, over the last 3 years, it varies from game to game, and in my opinion, it all depends on how well your console is functioning, since any bottlenecks in the performance of your console will directly affect your gaming experience. As for the games over the past 3 years, for the most part the PS5 has the same games as other platforms, but when it comes to exclusives, the PS5 is miles ahead. Some of the cross-platform games I've enjoyed playing on the PS5 include FC24, NBA 2K24, Call of Duty, just to name but a few. As for the PS5 exclusives, Spider-Man Miles Morales was one of my favorites alongside Ratchet & Clank, Horizon Forbidden West, The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, just to name but a few. Speaking of exclusive titles, they would be the perfect segue to the PlayStation Plus. Since launch, the PlayStation Plus has gone through different phases, from the days of PS Now to the current tier system that got introduced not too long ago. For those who've got no idea what that is, it's basically a tier system that opens up more gaming and media related features the higher up you go the subscriptions. Now, I wouldn't say it's a necessity, as this depends on how often you game and if you're willing to spend that extra coin on a game subscription. To break it down, the most basic plan, which is essential, gives you monthly games, multiplayer cloud storage, discounts and share play for 95 Australian dollars a year. Next up is PlayStation Extra, which gives you a games catalog, Ubisoft Plus Classics, in addition to all the features in the Essential plan for 165 Australian dollars and 95 cents a year. Then PlayStation Premium gives you game trials and cloud streaming in addition to all the other features in both the Essential and Extra plans for 196 Australian dollars and 95 cents a year. Talking of the yearly price, Sony recently bumped it out without any new added features, which caused some ripples in the hearts of most PlayStation gamers, hence the reason why some people prefer Game Pass on the Xbox Series X, which is a lot more pocket friendly. Now, if Sony's trends are anything to go by, they'll slowly add extra features to justify the price. Speaking of which, a few months back, they added the Sony Picture Score in the Extra and Premium plans, which will see users stream movies at no extra cost, get early access and also discounted prices on some Sony Pictures movies. Moving along, having just talked about the games and the games library, we might as well take a look at how the PlayStation 5 has translated its games library to remote play. This essentially enables you to play games stored in your console on any remote play device like your laptop, tablet, phone, then throw in controllers like the backbone for a proper controller experience whilst using your phone, and for even better experience, venturing into handhelds like the ROG Ally and PlayStation Portal make it even more immersive. Something to note though, with handhelds like your PS Portal, your console has to be on for it to work, as it basically streams whatever is on your console. Now, I know this has made the PlayStation Portal cop some flack, but just like we wondered how an update could improve the controller mics, something tells me in the not so distant future, Sony will make the PlayStation Portal independent of the console. Talking of independence from the console, the PS5 controllers are exactly that, and this is another area that has seen lots of movement since the launch of the PS5 a little over 3 years ago. Starting with the DualSense controller, it came with features like adaptive triggers which react and respond to what you're doing in a game, haptic feedback to totally immerse you in a game, for instance the vibration you feel when nailing a three-pointer in NBA 2K, then the inbuilt mics that allows you to chat with mates when playing online, and with the recent update I mentioned a little earlier, it's gotten even better. It's not all roses and sunshine though. All those features come at a cost in the form of a measly 6 to 8 hours of battery life, which by today's standards is below par. As if that's not enough, Sony's Pro controller, the DualSense Edge, also borrowed the same battery life, and this once again caused some ripples in the tech grapevine when compared to the 40 hours of the Xbox Elite controller. In saying that, the silver lining on the poor battery life cloud was the DualSense Edge came with amazing features like adjustable trigger stops, rear paddles, and the ability to swap the thumbstick in case you suffer stick drift. Design-wise, both controllers carry the same design language apart from a few cosmetic changes like the glossy faceplate and color change in the buttons and touchpad, which together help differentiate the two controllers. For an in-depth look at the two controllers, check out this comparison video I did a while back. While on the subject of design, we might as well take a look at the design of the console. After launch, the PS5 console copped a lot of slack because of its size, but with the release of the PS5 Slim, the criticism has sort of died down. Getting into the meat and potatoes of the PS5 console design, for the first time Sony moved away from the rectangular design we saw from the days of the PS1, 2, 3 and 4, and I find it quite futuristic with a glow along the vents, completing that alien look. In terms of height, it's the tallest console ever made, and that can be seen when put side by side with the Xbox Series X. When it comes to customization, by default the PS5 comes with the wide plates, but after a little over 3 years, we've got lots of customization options from Sony, third-party suppliers like Dbrand, and a few less known brands on Amazon. When it comes to the user interface of the PS5, there hasn't been much movement on this front, as we still have the game tiles up top and the full screen wallpapers in the background. In saying that, despite being stock standard for the most part, the few changes we've seen include the addition of PS5 and 4 icons on the bottom part of the game tile to let you know if it's a PS5 or 4 game. As for navigation, system haptic feedback was added to make it more interactive by allowing you to feel the vibrations and scrolls as you move around the screen. Moving along, some of the updates we talked about a little earlier like 1440p support, Dolby Atmos, and being able to mute your PS5 startup sound also play into the user interface experience, and tell you what, although not significant, personally I've enjoyed those changes. As for storage, like mentioned a little earlier, out of the box the PS5 comes with 825 gigs, of which 667 are usable. Honestly speaking, it only takes 3 or 4 proper games to fill it up, and to put that into context, I had FC24, NBA 2K24, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 fill it up after the huge Call of Duty updates started coming in. Good thing, PlayStation opened up the expansion bay after initially having it on lock, and this enabled many users like me add M.2 NVMe SSD sticks to the expansion base for the much needed extra storage. In case you didn't know, initially it was capped off at 4TB, but now you can go up to 8TB, which is a massive bump that most gamers will love. Something to note though, before buying an M.2 NVMe SSD stick, you've got to make sure it's compatible with your PS5 and also has the right read and write speeds. Moving on to the accessories, after 3 years, a myriad of accessories for the PlayStation 5 have hit the gaming market, be it charging stations, storage drives, controllers, custom plates, headphones, earbuds, the list goes on and on. Now, for those who haven't caught wind of it yet, the most recent additions to the accessory list were the Pulse Elite headset and the Explore earbuds. If you'd ask me, for the average consumer, it would be necessary to get all these accessories. A few main ones is all you need. With majority of the things about the PS5 after 3+ years already laid out, we finally get a chance to talk about what the future holds. Now, before we get into that, as it's always been the trend, around the 3-year mark, Sony always releases a mid-cycle refresh, and that saw the launch of the PS5 Slim, which to be honest, didn't get a lot of buzz. In terms of games, in my opinion, for the most part, Sony has been releasing some really good titles, and that can be seen from last month's releases with Resident Evil 3 Remake and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot being the main headliners. Talking of headliners, Sony's announcement that the PS5 is entering its latter stages and no more exclusive titles coming out this year were not the headlines most PS5 fans wanted. Nonetheless, it sets up a good precedence with regards to how Sony will keep up with exclusive title releases from other platforms like Xbox and Nintendo. Speaking of keeping up with other platforms, with renders of the rumored cylindrical Xbox Series X already flying around the tech grapevine, it would be good to see renders of the PS5 Pro from trusted sources, given that Sony has hinted it's already in its dying embers. That said and done, you might be asking yourself, is it worth it getting a PS5 now? Well, if you're looking for a bargain, the original PS5 in most cases would be cheaper than the Slim, and for slightly better performance, the Slim would be fine, and for something even better, I'd suggest waiting for the Pro. Well, there you have it, peeps. I hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. To watch an in-depth comparison between the PS5 and the Xbox Series X after a little over 3 years, check out this video. Until then, people of the internet, I'm signing out. See you on the next one.